Daryll. Thanks for coming on.
What's going on, Jade?
How are you today?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited about this.
Me too. Me too. We
Well,
um we spoke a little bit at was it community camp
yeah.
we're at, and it was dope. That was super fun. So
Yeah, community camp was a blast. There was so many people, so I think there was a lot of like short little conversations here and there, but it was really cool to get to meet you in person.
yeah, likewise.
Oh, cool. I want to start out talking about when you got into real estate and how did you find real estate and get started?
Yeah. So this was about 3 years. It's a funny story. I always tell people that real estate found me. I wasn't actually like looking for it, right? So
Okay.
this all started. I was playing college football. I graduated and I got into this mode where I was like playing football my whole life, and now it's just like it's done. I kind of like lost my identity, right? I had no clue what to do. So I got into like a sad like cycle.
Yeah.
Right. I was just waking up, playing video games, smoking weed, going to work over and over and over again. And I had some roommates at the time. One of them was actually in real estate. So I had one foot in. So like I was listening to like Max Maxwell, and I was watching like Brent Daniels and stuff. And then one day my mom called me and she's like, "Hey, we have a house." She had a house that I grew up in that she had moved to Arizona at the time, and we had a house in Pennsylvania. She had made it a rental property, right? So she had a tenant in there. She doesn't know anything about real estate, and what happened was the tenant ended up being on the run from the cops, and he stopped paying her, right? And the tenant was a friend, and he just stopped paying her, right? So now she's stuck paying two mortgages every single month, one for the house that she lives in and the other for a house that nobody's living in. Like I grew up in the house and now it's just vacant. So she called me and she's like, "Hey, we have a problem." And I'm like, "Okay, I think I know what the solution is." So I just knew the only thing I knew about real estate was get a contract and find a buyer. So I got a contract with my mom. I like did some market research. I reached out to some realtors, some people that I knew, right, from my network, and just asked them what do they think this house is worth. Got a contract from my mom, and I'm like, "Hey, mom, you know what I'm saying? Like I need to make a couple dollars."
Yeah.
She's like, "Cool, like as long as I get this problem solved, like I'm good." Right. So we ended up I ended up getting her under contract, put the house, put some pictures of the house in a Facebook group. Same day, a realtor, like my phone started blowing up. And the same day, a realtor reached out, started talking to her, and ended up selling it to her and her client. Did the deal totally wrong. Like she left. She ended up talking me into getting her contract, using her contract.
Mm.
She wiped me off the deal like completely. If it wasn't from my mom, like I wouldn't have got paid.
Yeah.
She just wired me money. So like I really don't even count that as my first deal, but it's how I got introduced to real estate, right? Because
Right.
I'm like, man, this is pretty easy. Like all I gotta do is get a contract and put it in the Facebook group, and I
Yeah.
get $5,000. So that was kind of like the gateway, and I decided to just keep doing that, right? Like, and I just became obsessed with it and just made it my everything, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of me playing the game now when I'm waking up, like I put the game in the closet and I started to make cold calls up until work. And it took some time to get to that point, but like it was like out of necessity, right? Like
Yeah.
I was broke, right? Like it's a lot more that goes into that, but that's how I found real estate, right? That's how real estate found me. That's how I got my first deal. It was actually my mom's house. So I
That's
tell people now,
story.
like I actually tell people that are in the dog pound. I tell them when you talk to sellers, talk to them like it's easy to have empathy because I talk to everybody like they were my mom, right? If it was my mom, right? I really want to help that other person, and I tell people to imagine that you're helping your mom out on the other line, like they're just talking to somebody who has a problem, and imagine your mom having that problem,
Yeah.
and
What
yeah,
a cool story.
yeah.
So from there, did you immediately were you like, okay, I need to jump all in and start doing this real estate thing? Or did it take a while for you to kind of get in that rhythm of wanting to do that?
So I had to, right? Like I needed to. I was in a place where I was in a position where, so during that time, right, I had a fallout with my roommates. I ended up leaving, and I was in a whole like a different state like that I'm not from, and I'm staying on a friend's couch. Pretty not even a couch. Like I'm living in his living room on an air mattress. The air mattress has a hole in it, so I'm waking up every day with my back touching the ground. And like I didn't like I was forced to do it.
Yeah.
Like I had no other choice because I didn't like my circumstances. I like my situations, and it was that period like really it was really a transition period to who I am today because I had to make a choice, right? Because the people that I was living with, they were partying every weekend. They were turning up. They had girls coming over. They were doing all this and all that, and like I just couldn't. I literally and physically could not afford to do that, right? So I as that happened, I would take a long walk, like sit in my car with my dog and like read a book, listen to audiobooks, drive, like drive around the neighborhood. It would be dark, but like I would just still drive around the neighborhood and just everything that I tried to fill into my brain. I still do this today. Like everything that I put into my brain, I try to make it positive, right? And help me move forward, move the needle forward.
That takes a lot of discipline to step outside of your friend group well, especially when you're living there and
Yeah.
y'all hang out all the time and you just say, you know what, I'm not about this anymore. I need to focus on my business, making my life better, all of that. Really cool. So from there, we're both a part of Subto.
Mm-hmm.
Did you join Subto, the community, pretty quickly, or did you just do everything solo for a long time?
So I joined Subto right away. So like I closed 3 deals during this time. I closed, so I ended up buying a list, right? I ended up buying a list and I was hand dialing this list for the longest and didn't get any success out of hand dialing the list. So what I ended up doing was took one of my paychecks and started paying for a dialer, right? So now I'm using a dialer and I'm like, oh man, this is gold, right? So I'm using this dialer and I'm just dialing all day. And now I'm starting to invest in the business, right? Because I realize how important it is. So I'm putting money in the dialer and I'm sending text messages, right? So I'm on the dialer and I'm sending text messages at the same time. And I'm just reaching out to people. And I end up closing 3 deals on that one list, right? So I had some money sitting there, and then I'm still just doing my thing. I wasn't thinking about mentorship. I'm still just watching Brent Daniels and Max Maxwell. At this point, I'm watching um I'm sorry, what Pace Jamil and Brent Wholesale Hotline. So I'm watching Wholesale Hotline now, and Pace is on the radar, and he's just talking about Subto and taking over mortgages and stopping pre-foreclosures. And I'm on the phone with some lady, and I just couldn't solve her problem, right? Like she had an auction coming up, and she said, "Hey, I'm just gonna let the bank take it." She's like, I'm fed up. She's like, I'm just gonna let the bank take it. I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, I know we can solve your problem. I just don't know how to do it. Right. Like, but I know somebody who does. And like that very next day, I signed up for Subto. I got called in Subto and signed up for a call. And I joined Subto. And I found somebody that could call that lady and get her on the phone. Now that lady she didn't end up we didn't end up doing a deal with her, but that was super important. Like I had that issue and I just instantly joined Subto. And the rest was, that was 3 years ago now.
Powerful. Yeah, so much. I mean, there's so much in community. You can do it alone, but it's so much harder. It's so lonely. It goes so much slower than when you're in a community and you can call someone who specializes in foreclosure, someone who does short sales, someone, there's someone for every single thing. Pick up the phone and call them and they're there to help. It's game changer.
It's everything.
So in Subto, we talk a lot about avatars. What is your avatar?
So I have a couple different avatars. My first avatar was a closer. All right. So when I first got into Subto, like I worked on somebody's team I put all my time and hours into becoming a really, really good closer. All right, close a lot of deals. And now I transitioned to really just a wholesaler, right? Like I have a wholesale business now where I would say my avatar is direct to seller, but we also do JV, we also do direct to agent, right? Like we also do Lonzo method. We do pretty much everything. So I would say if I can make one up, like I would say like I'm a maestro at this point, like because we're just like we're just running the wholesale business and just looking for the best opportunities,
Yeah.
and really just building systems and processes and just putting the right people in place to execute, so we can start having consistent money without me needing to necessarily be in every place at every time.
Right. Right. What does your team structure look like right now?
So we actually just hired a couple people, but we have me and my business partner. So my business partner runs our dispo and our lead management, our lead generation. Sorry, so our cold call team, our direct, our PPC, all that good stuff. Like that's all her. Dispo, that's all her. Um, I do our acquisitions, right? And our acquisitions team looks like we have two virtual assistants that are lead managers, and two acquisitions reps that are closing deals and talking to sellers. And so our lead managers, they're dialing all day on the dialer, pushing opportunities up the ladder. And then the acquisitions reps are trying to close them. Anything that doesn't work cash and becomes creative, like that's when I really step in and close the creative deals. And then we have a dispo assistant who handles all of our dispo. She also cold calls as well. But we run a lean team. We run a small team, and people wear multiple hats, right? It's like my lead managers, they may also do some cold calling as well, and bring leads to the system. And it's not really traditional, but we like to run like a tight ship, a lean ship. And like recently, I just like totally wiped the slate clean and started brand new because our foundation was flaky.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like
So you're doing cash and creative. Would you say
Mhm.
it's kind of equal, or are you doing one more than the other?
It's weird, right? It's I would say right now we're doing more creative, but that's because we slowed down on our marketing. So here, quick story on what we just went through like the past 6 months. We had an acquisitions team, and I really grew over this past 6 months because I learned how to be a better manager. Right, I wasn't managing the people that we had in the first and that we had correctly. We were generating 30 leads a week, and they just weren't being followed up with to correctly. Right, so
Yeah.
we got everybody out of there, and switched CRMs. Right, because our last CRM didn't also allow us to be at the to follow up to the best of our abilities. So we switched CRMs. We're now using REI Unlocked. We have AI in our CRMs. Like we were able to really lean our team down, and I fired everybody, got new people on board, and just started from the ground up. Built new SOPs, just everything with this new system, and it's been working out well, right? So that's what we have done, and really just wanted to really tighten everything up, get down in like two specific markets, and just get really narrowed down in what we're doing.
Yeah. And so you're seeing more success from that now that you've changed business models?
Yeah. So, well, to answer your original question, right, we've been seeing more creative deals. Um, with what we're doing right now because we slowed down on our marketing, right? And now we're doing primarily the leads that we're getting are primarily JV and what's in our system already that we're just cleaning out now.
Yeah.
So right now it's been more creative, but I would say overall in this market today, it's more creative in general because there's so many more people that can't their problem just can't be solved with cash.
Yeah.
Now we do try to do a lot of cash still. Like I'd rather cash, honestly. Like if you ask me cash or creative deal, I'm picking cash any day.
It's
Right?
cleaner. Yeah.
It's way cleaner. It's way
Yeah.
cleaner.
Yeah, I'll agree that creative deals, like I do a lot of direct to agent. So I feel like
Mhm.
there's so many opportunities for creative on the market right now. Just so many sellers that can't get the offer they want, or they're having to write a check to sell, that type of thing, or
Yeah.
foreclosures. We're coming a lot of across foreclosures or sellers that are headed that way. So definitely a lot. Yeah, I like cash. I mean, cash is of course always cleaner. It's easier to everyone for it to understand, to get it closed, all of that.
Yeah.
But
How have the agents been dealing with creative in your opinion?
I mean, I think that there's obviously more agents that are against it than not.
Hmm.
But I think that once you find the agents that understand the value in it, then obviously those are the ones you want to do deals with. Those are the ones that are going to bring you leads. Like I had one, we sent her an offer and I can't remember why, but she was like, no, this is not going to work for the seller. She called me 2 weeks later, reached out herself and was like, hey, I have this other listing. I already pitched it to them. They're ready to go. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. Like those are the ones that you're looking for. Of course, we go through a ton of phone calls every day, or this is illegal, or this is scammy, or no, why would my seller ever do that? I
Yeah.
think there's more of those conversations than there is the ones where they're on board. But I mean, we're doing a good amount of deals getting the agents on board. I think you just have to really go through the trenches to get them.
I like that. Yeah. So, cause like with us, we, I tell my team to not only that don't really focus on that specific lead that they have listed that you're calling about. Go for that relationship because
Yep.
that's more important than anything, right? Like we don't even like I'll tell them from the beginning. Like if I'm talking to an agent, I'll tell them, hey, even if this house doesn't work, I still want to be a tool to be in your tool belt, right?
Yep.
And help sellers that help bring a solution that you probably won't be able to give your sellers with any other buyers, right? And get that out from the jump from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, that's really key. I say that in every conversation, every email. I mean, no matter what, always at the end, like, if you have any other listings, let me know.
Yeah,
And a lot of them don't, but a lot of them do. And that's what you're looking for.
yeah.
So, what's the number one thing that you feel like has really contributed to your success this far?
Just being consistent, just showing up every single day,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, I started this 3 years ago. Every single day for those past 3 years, I wake up, I get on my computer, and I push the needle forward, right?
Yeah.
Like it may not be, it may not be a crazy amount of, I may not be progressing 20% each day, right? But every single day for the past 3 years, I make sure I get 1% better than I did from the day before in one area of my life, one aspect of my life, right? And primarily the main focus has been on the business, on the wholesale business, right? So it's just by showing up. Like people people think that there's so much competition and so much like our competition makes the job easy
Hmm.
for us. They don't show up, right? Like people they start something and then they get what's the word I'm looking for? They get shiny object syndrome,
Yeah.
right? And okay, what's the next thing? Business buying. Okay, so now half your competition is now buying businesses, which is great. Like I'm gonna get into buying businesses as well. But every single day, I'm still pushing this needle forward for what I'm working on right now, which is the wholesale
Yeah.
business. You know,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, I mean, this business is rough and it's so many. I always tell people it's such a roller coaster because one day it'll be like a straight day of agents being so rude to me and just horrible conversations, and I'm feeling down about it. Then the next day I get two contracts. I'm like, okay, cool. And you're happy again. Like,
yeah,
that's just how it is. And I think a lot of people expect you to like get a deal in the first week of calling and have all these great conversations. And it's just not how it goes.
yeah,
But if you stay consistent, you're the one following up, you're going to be the one that gets those deals, right? Like I posted I don't know if you saw it, but I posted a reel today And it was about following up for a year. We had this lead for an entire year, kept following up, and sure enough, we got the deal because no one else was calling this dude anymore.
Yep.
So a year sounds like a long time, but I mean, you got the deal. So
No, we have leads in our system that have been in our system for 3 years.
yeah.
Like, we don't throw anything out. I have a similar reel that I posted where I don't know if you know my roommate Marlon Johnson. You probably know Marlon. I came downstairs one day and I'm like, yo, I just got a contract signed. And he's like, dope, like, let's go through it. Let's look at the deal. Started telling him the address, telling him what the house is about and the terms and everything. He's like, that address sounds familiar. And I'm like, oh yeah? He's like, let me see that. And he's like, yo, I had this. He's like, I used to work this lead. And Marlon, if you know Marlon, he stopped wholesaling about a year ago. Like, Marlon hasn't been wholesaling for a while. Like, this was over a year and a half ago. We were in the same virtual office, like wholesaling together, right? JVing together and stuff like that. So over a year and a half ago is when he was last wholesaled. And he's like, yo, like, I had this lead in my system. I worked on this lead. And I'm like, you know, the only reason why I got it and you didn't? He's like, what? He's like, because I just kept on calling, right? Like, we literally just kept on calling. And most of our leads, most of the deals that we close have been in our system for a longer period of time, right? Like, you have to understand, a lot of people have to understand the cash conversion cycle of the lead generation method that you're using, right? So if you're cold calling, right, that cash conversion cycle is today with today's A2P rules and registration details, all that good stuff. It's like 9 months to get your money back on what you're investing, right? So, like, you have to know your numbers, and that's something I'm getting better at as well, just understanding our numbers and how much money we put in and how much time does it take us to get it back, right? Now, what strategy should we be using for lead generation? So
patience is key when it comes to this business, and persistence.
For sure.
So, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently looking back? I mean, you did restructure your whole business. So, were there a lot of things that you're like, okay, if I could start all over, I'm going to change all of these things? Or this one thing I would do differently?
Yeah. So, is there anything that I would have changed? Nah, I really wouldn't change anything. Like, I'm a firm believer that everything you go through is for a reason. Like, you have to learn that lesson. And I'll be extremely transparent. Like, so just last year, right? Like, I'm just now getting out of this hole, right? Like, just last year, I ended up buying like 8-9 properties, and half of them were bad deals, right? And they just weren't cash flowing. So I was losing money every single month, hemorrhaging money every single month. Private money lenders, every time money came into my account, it's going out, right? And that sucked, right? Like, I had like savings like dropped, like I was in a really bad spot, but I wouldn't change anything. I feel like I had to go through that, right? Like, I had to learn these lessons. I'm gonna learn them someday, right? And thank God it's now when I'm 27 years old versus I'm 50 and got nobody to lean on, right? Like, so I'm happy, right? Like, when I first closed my first couple deals, right? Like, I invested in Subto. The rest of the money, blew it, right? I straight blew it. And I was talking to somebody about it. I was talking to it was just an older dude, he's older than me, right? He's in Subto. And we were actually out here in Arizona, and I was telling him about it. I'm like, yeah, like, I blew all that money. Like, I blew it. Like, I went on vacation. Like, that money is gone. And he's like, well, I'm happy for you. Good. He's like, you were supposed to. He's like, and I was like, what you mean? He's like, that's a lesson that you learn now, right? He's like, if imagine if you were, he's like, most people don't touch real money until they're 50, 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do with it. You learned this lesson at 23, 24. Right. So he's like, I'm happy for you that you went through this. So like, I don't look at anything that I did. I wouldn't change anything. Like everything was for a reason.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, I mean, I've lost a lot of money or lost out on deals by making mistakes, and I still wouldn't go back and change it, even though I was really sad in the moment. I'm like, I learned this lesson early on, and I'll never do it again. So
Exactly.
it ends up making you more money and making you better in the long run. So
Exactly.
I agree. That was a good answer.
But
So
it's important to look for that lesson though, because if you don't find the lesson, you're just gonna keep going through the same shit over and over and over and over until you learn the lesson. It's like and that's where most people go wrong, right? Like people will learn a lesson. Well, they'll lose in the moment and they'll take it as a failure, right? But it's only a loss if you don't learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't find the lesson that you're trying to learn, that God is trying to teach you in that moment, right? So got to find a lesson in every situation that goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when you lose a deal, I think losing a deal can hurt a lot, but there's always a lesson there on what you could have done better. How could you not lose the next one, right? So that's really good. You mentioned it when we first started. What's the dog pound and why'd you start that?
So the dog pound is my sales training community. So we have a community of like-minded. So when I first started, right, I was making calls and I was the only person around me doing what I was doing. Right. So like I joined Subto, I joined the community, but still to that point, like I was still alone making calls, having conversations, right? And one day, do you know Keston Glasgow?
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Keston. He had put together something called the virtual office, right? In the virtual office, it was everybody doing the same thing. Everybody that was just in there, just making calls, closing deals, pumping things, just moving the needle forward, right? Just getting things done every single day. It was a group of people, right? And one day, everybody just really just grew out and started doing their own thing. Everybody just succeeded, obviously, because we're sitting in that room grinding every single day, right? So people end up with more responsibilities and they start doing more and they start growing, right? So I'm like, man, that was awesome. I need to recreate this for other people, right? So how it started was the dog pound. What it is right now is it's a sales training community, right? Like if you're a real estate wholesaler and you're talking to sellers, or you want to start talking to sellers, and you suck at it, or you're good at it and you want to get better, like we do daily sales trainings, we do call calibrations, we do role plays. I go on rants in there, like I we'll break down my calls. We have so much, just every tool that you need to become a closer, right? If you want to be a closer, a dog pound is a community for you to do that with like-minded people who want to do that, right? So I brought up that story because it can get lonely during this business, doing this business, and just I wanted to put together a community of people who are doing this together, right? Like our main goal is to become a closer. Let's do this together, right? And what we're building right now, it's amazing to see other people help each other, right? Like just develop other people into leaders. Like that's one of my passions, right? Like I love giving people game and then just watching them use it and make a lot of money, right? Like that's one of the best feelings. So helping other people do that for others, right? So the dog pound, what it is, like right now, and I give it away. Like it's $55 a month, literally. Like it's nothing, right? And I just want to provide value, and I just want the community to grow as I grow, right? And like right now, it's focused on sales training, but a year from now, 2 years from now, it may be business buying masterclass. So I don't even want to put the people that are the dog pound in a box, right? It's really like the name says stuff. If you're a dog, right? Like if you're like closing deals, if you're a go-getter, if you're just getting after it, like that's what the community is for. Right now, we're focused on real estate wholesaling, right? Like if you're a wholesaler, real estate wholesaler, join the Dog Pound to get better at talking to sellers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a community, right? It's the community for sales, for real estate sales training.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so helpful. And I think that I'm sure you guys all become friends in there. And it's kind of like, oh, I get to go hang out with my friends and make calls and talk to each other. And it does get lonely, especially when you don't have, maybe friends in real life or a lot of personal friends that are doing the same things you are. My boyfriend's in your community.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of change in him since he joined. Before, I don't know if he's told you this, but I'm just going to tell on him. Before he joined, he struggles with making calls, and he would sit in the living room and turn on your YouTube channel and listen to you make calls. And he was like, it's just like makes me feel like comfort, like seeing someone else make calls. It makes me like I'm making calls with them, right? And so it made him like eager to make calls every day, which is really cool. And so now I see him growing in there and making calls or in front of you or doing role playing, which is so outside of his comfort zone. Like he won't even call in front of me. He makes me put in headphones or leave the room whenever he makes calls. So I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you're in there, and we'll do it in front of them at least.
And that's what it's about, right? Because if you don't, and shout out to Alex, because like he had mentioned that, right? He was like one day he was like, yeah, like I'm super nervous to role play in front of people. It's out of my comfort zone. So the very next day I had him go first, right? And what we want to build is we want everybody to have that confidence, because if you don't have that confidence to do it in front of your peers, you're not gonna have the confidence to do it in front of a seller. And if you don't have the confidence to say it with your chest, they're not gonna have any confidence in you to actually get the job done. And this is a huge decision that people are making. Right. So if you're not confident in yourself, they're not going to be confident in you. And that's one of the things that we're looking to build in people in the Dog Pound.
Yeah. I say that all the time. I feel like even if you have no idea what you're talking about, even if you don't necessarily know if what you're saying is fact, if you just say it with confidence, like you believe it wholeheartedly, they're going to believe you, and they're going to be like, okay, cool. This guy knows what he's talking about, even if you know that you really don't.
Right. Like you'll ask yourself, like, if this person is so confident, like am I wrong? Like, they start questioning themselves, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it goes a long way. Well, I think that's really cool that you're building a community. And I think it's going to change a lot of people's that, just struggling with this, even if they're in Subto. I think Subto is obviously amazing. There's so many resources, but it is such a big community. Like, even when I joined, I felt a lot of, I think, maybe like imposter syndrome of like, I couldn't go network with people and I couldn't go talk to people because I wasn't doing deals. And so I felt like I didn't have anything to provide. So I think that having this smaller community where it kind of just feels like you're all buddy and hanging out, and there's not a ton of people and not a ton of like, heat being put on you. It's a lot easier to get in there and start making those dials and chatting with people.
No, for sure. And one thing too, like, shout out to Subto. Like, let's talk about that, because that's where Subto is literally the foundation of everything, right? Like, I was talking to my roommate about that the other day, and thank you. And we he was shopping and he brought home like one of the peace signs, and I'm like, damn, this is crazy. Like, we all met in Subto. Like, this is insane. Like, some of my best friends, most of my best friends, I met them in Subto, right? Yeah. And it's such an amazing community that Pace has just brought together. And I do what I do. Like, I watch Pace and I'm like, man, I want to be just like this guy, right? So let me do what he's doing, right? Now I don't want, and like, this is like, Subto changed my life, right? Yeah. Like when I got into Subto, like I was saying, like, as soon as I joined, it was that community aspect, right? It was, hey, I don't know what to do with this lead. Somebody help me, please, right? And somebody helped me, and this dude ended up hiring me on his team and taught me everything that he knew. Right. So it's like you got to turn around and give back. And that's the type of community that Pace built. And it's amazing to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch him grow and watch the community grow as well.
It really is. I think that it's almost hard to be in Subto and not become a leader. Like that's just the space that Pace creates is
Yeah.
like I'm a totally different person. I've been in Subto for a year and a half now, but it took me a long time to feel comfortable and like know what's going on. There's so much going on in there. But I would say within the last I think the beginning of the year really is I've seen so much growth in myself. I feel like I'm a totally different person. I feel like I've really come out of a shell and like seen myself grow as a leader. And I think that Pace just advocates for that, right? Like Pace is the most go giver person you will ever meet in your life. And I think it's hard to not want to go back and give to other people when you're in Pace's community.
How'd you find Subto?
So I started wholesaling a few years ago and I just did some wholesale deals, didn't know what I was doing, somehow got them done. And I was like, okay, this is the path. Like I knew it was what I wanted to do. Then I became an agent and stopped wholesaling. Wish I wouldn't have done that. I thought that I was going to be like an agent as my career.
What year? What's the timeline?
Timeline. I started wholesaling in 2019.
Okay.
So yeah, did a couple deals, got hooked, got my license like all within 6 to 8 months, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this as my career. Started doing that. I mean, I did some great business as an agent, but then it came to a point of this is a job. This is not what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be an investor since the first day I got that wholesale check. Like, what am I doing? And so I told Alex, like, we need to get back on track. We've completely lost sight of what we were really started all this for. Got on YouTube again, found Pace, started listening, and I'm like, this is gonna be interest rates were already changing. I'm like, this is gonna be the thing. This is gonna be, an amazing tool in the tool belt, and decided to join. And I was extremely grateful that I did. Best decision I've ever made. And like I said, it took me a while. If I could go back, that probably is one thing that I would change is I wish I would have been more active in the community when I first joined. I made that mistake of not being active and kind of sitting in the background of Zooms and all that. But here I am now, and yeah, best decision ever. And now wholesaling is primarily what I do.
Yeah, everybody has their own timetable, right? Like everybody has their own journey and works on their own time. And like I was having a thought like that the other day where it's like, damn, like I need to be further, right? I need to be further along. I'm not where I need to be, but things happen at the time that they're supposed to, right? Like as long as you're putting in that work and you're doing all of today's work today and all of tomorrow's work tomorrow, like that's all you can do. Right?
Yeah.
That's all you can do. And you may have needed that time to learn, right? Like if you were in the background, you may have been learning, right? Like not everybody is let me just jump out there and just cause chaos type of person, right? Like some people are more calculated before they jump out there, right? So everybody's different,
Yeah. I think it was like I think a lot of people feel this is like you have to create your own thing off the bat or do it on your own. So I was, had ARIA reply and was sending texts and was doing calls like all by myself, and I was still an agent and had a W-2 also. So
yeah,
I'm like, I should have joined a team. I actually do think that joining a team is the right decision for a lot of people when you're first joining.
for sure.
Can learn so much. You obviously have that guidance, people that know what they're doing. And so, yeah, I've been on a team for a while. I'm so grateful. I've like really grown into being a leader within that team. And
that's awesome.
Anyway, yeah, it's game changing.
Yeah, it's important. Like I tell so many people, if you're new and your goal is to have a wholesale operation, join a operation that actually is making money, right? And that is actually successful. And when you go in there, give that person your everything, commit for 9 months minimum, and not only just focus on your job, but focus on everything. Focus on how the meetings are ran. Focus on the structure of the meetings. Focus on how the training is done, how the onboarding is done. Focus on the follow-up system. Focus on everything that's happening in that business. So now you can duplicate it, right? Like up until what my business looks like now, my old business looked how the dude I used to work for, it looked like his business, except it had my twist on it, right? But for the most part, it was his framework. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just go understand, just go work for a crew that knows how to get a wheel working and get a wheel running and knows how to create a wheel, and then go create your own crew to do the same thing, right? Like, it's not rocket science, right? So like I'd tell everybody to go join a team that's actually successful and go replicate that. Give them your everything and then go replicate that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, so powerful to just be around people like that. What's your vision with your business and also the dog pound?
So my vision for the wholesale business, I would say 150,000 a month. I want us to be netting 150,000 a month in the next year, with me working 10% a week. Like I would say like 10 hours a week in the business, right? Like I want the business to work for itself. I see the business being ran by a majority of virtual assistants, closing deals, selling deals at still a lean operation. That's bringing in that money monthly. Maybe one or two Americans that are in the States, but I want everything to be local. And I'm going to be buying those deals, right? Like buying majority of those deals, doing flips. I really want to get into multifamily, only multifamily, raising a lot of money for multifamily deals. And then getting into business buying as well. Like in my eyes, how I look at the business buying and the wholesaling acquisitions, it's like pretty much, it's very similar, right? So I want to have an operation that's wholesaling businesses and wholesaling houses as well. And I'm the main buyer, right? Buying businesses, buying houses. I want to stay away really from the houses and buy more multifamily, redevelopment. I want to do a lot. I want to get into a lot, but ideally, like, I see myself just growing into that just the real estate guy. Like, I want you to think of, like, when you think of real estate, like, I want you to think of me. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of broad, but like, I want to be in everything. And then it's kind of the same thing with the dog pound, right? Like, I want the dog pound to grow as I grow. Right. So like I said, right now, like, our main focus is wholesaling. And if you want to get really good at talking to sellers, like, you will always be able to come to the dog pound and get really good at talking to sellers. Like, that system is being set up. And just like this, the wholesale business, right? Like, when it's not me anymore, it's going to be coaches in there that are coaching you up on the regular, just how I'm doing it now. They're coaching, they're using the system, they're using the sales system, they're implementing the same skills that I've implemented into them. And then I go to do something else, right? Like, whether it's now it's going to be multifamily, right? Or raising private capital, right? You can come to the dog pound to do that, right? Now, everything is just going to be built out to where you can come to the dog pound and do literally whatever. Like, if you're not even a dog yet, like, you come in and you become a dog and you can pick an avenue. and that's the big vision for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about it, is to take it one by one, right? Like, you're focusing on building out your wholesale business right now, and then you'll move on to multifamily and then businesses. So it's like, you can do it all, but you can't do it all at once. And Pace is a great example of that. He's done single family forever, and then he went to multifamily, and then he did businesses. So it's like, it may look like these people do it all. They do now, but they didn't start doing that.
One of the best things I learned from Pace, we were actually at Kevin Cho's house and we were talking, and he had said he was talking to one of his mentors, and he asked him, he's like, how do I say no to opportunities? Like I'm getting so many opportunities. How do I say no to them?
Yeah.
And his mentor looked at him and he was like, you think God put you on this earth to say no to opportunities?
Yeah.
You're asking the wrong question. The question is, how do I say yes to all of these opportunities? Right. And the answer to that is putting in systems in place and finding the right people to operate those systems at a high level. And
Yeah.
and that's the game, right? Like that's the game that I've become addicted to, is like, how do I build a system and replace myself as fast as possible and get it to work?
I love that. I think that that's why tired landlords are a thing, and why these business owners that need to sell, to us now are a thing, is because people haven't learned how to replace themselves. And so you have,
Yep.
a 75-year-old still running their business that they just can't do it anymore, instead of they could have replaced themselves 30 years ago, right? So yeah, it's powerful to learn that early on. And I think that's really how you build an empire, is becoming more so the puppet master, quote unquote, instead of the person
Yeah.
and they're doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm a puppy right now. That makes me laugh.
Yeah, that's funny. So like anytime you join, so there's a free dog pound as well. If
Oh,
you're in the free Discord, so we actually have a free so every Thursday we have a free call in the Discord where I just give out value to the free community. But if
yeah.
you're in that free Discord, you're a puppy.
Oh,
But when you join the private Discord, the $55 a month one, then you become a dog.
yeah.
And because you
Love
get that
it.
one-on-one training, right? So so
Do you
yeah,
want to put a link in the chat for anyone that wants to join? Or do you
yeah.
have a link?
Let me pull that up quick. Am I able to put it? I can put it in the private chat here. Cool. Yeah. So it's not gonna be $55 for long. Like I really don't know how long it's gonna be. It's gonna be that price.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing this part for the money. The main thing is like the community, right? Like I really want to build this community. Eventually, this community is going to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And I'm going to charge 5, 10,000, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like eventually, it's going to be a higher ticket. But right now, it's the lowest ticket, right? And it's so much value. Like people tell me so much, like, yo, you're crazy. But I really don't care. I'm gonna keep just giving value and just keep on just growing that community and just keep on over delivering,
I think that's the key. I think that's what a lot of the mentors teach you, is just over give, over provide for, what you're charging. And that's how you build that community of people that want to keep coming back, because you show that you are that person, right? So I love that. I think that's really powerful. I think you're going to go a long way with that mentality.
Appreciate that.
What do you have any advice for someone that wants to get their first deal? They're struggling right now. They're having a hard time on the phones. They don't know what to say. They don't know where to find their first deal. They don't know what list to pull. What do they do?
I would just it's just so important to remember that this is a numbers game, right? Like you don't have to know real estate. You don't have to understand repairs. You don't have to understand none of that. This is a numbers game. If you
Yeah.
talk to as many people as you possibly can every day and you make quality offers every single day, you will get a deal. Now, when people hear that, they think, oh, I'm going to get a deal. I'm going to get a deal in a week, or I'm going to get a deal in a month. It doesn't work like that. It may work like that for some people. Like I was fortunate enough that I got 3 deals in my first 3 months, but everybody has that. Like everybody that I've ever spoken to who's serious in this business and actually does this business had a period to where they were getting nothing. They were just marketing and they were questioning, does this work? Whether it happened in the beginning and it took you your first 6 months to a year to get a deal, or you got a deal fast and early, you eventually had a period to where you weren't getting deals at some time, right? You had a slow period, right? Everybody has that time. So it's important to understand that this is just a numbers game. And if you just stay consistent and you just continue to make offers, you will get a deal. Like so many people tell me, yo, Daryll, this business is so hard. It doesn't work. I haven't gotten my first deal yet. And I asked them, how many offers have you made?
0.
2 offers. I made 0 offers.
Yeah.
How do you expect for it to work if you've made 2 offers? It would never work.
No.
Right? Come back to me after you make 100 offers and then tell me it doesn't work.
What do you know your KPIs for how many offers to get a contract?
So me personally, so I've 1 in 25 conversations is going to get me a contract. I really don't count. So my offers, so my team, I have my team, they have to make 3 offers a day, 18 offers a week. Right. That's their KPI. They make 18 offers a week. They typically get 2 contracts. With me, more or less, it's a little different because like I typically won't make an offer unless I know for a fact, or I'm like 90% confident that we're gonna get the deal done.
Yeah.
Right? Like 9 times out of 10, my offer is gonna be like, hey, we may not be a good fit. Why don't you just list this with the realtor? I can bring you a realtor to the table.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, why don't you just hold it, right? Or why don't you just keep it? So I more to count my conversations. That's more of a better trackable KPI for me personally.
Yeah, that's about what ours is too. It's 25 offers to a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird how I feel like that hits almost every single time. When I look back at our thing, I'll count it all up. Every 25 is a contract. Yeah. So yeah.
It's funny too, because like I tell people this too, because you can say you make 25 offers and you don't get a deal, but then you make like another 10 offers and you're at 35, you're gonna end up getting 2 deals in those next 2 offers. Like it just happens like that. Like it's just weird.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I think don't think that it's like on the 26th offer you're gonna get that contract that day. It's not how it happens. Like it might be a month later that I get the contract from last month, you know. Exactly. So it's not the timing necessarily. It's just it works out. Once you send 25 offers, you're gonna get a contract. So just keep sending out the offers. Okay, we have a question. If we sign up before the price goes up, will we pay the old or new price every month?
Yeah, you'll be grandfathered in, my guy.
Oh, y'all better hop on that.
Like it's almost a no-brainer to not be a part of it at this point. Because that price isn't, if you're in it now, that price isn't going to change for you. And then there's going to be people 10 years from now who are going to be laughing at the other people who waited, and they'll be like, I'm only paying $55.
Seriously. That's crazy. Yeah, Abraham, go join. I get on Abraham's. I don't know if you know him well, but I get on his butt all the time. I'm like, let's JV on a deal already, dude. Okay, so you have a pretty good business structure. You've restructured things lately. You're doing consistent deals. Is there something or some things that you are needing in your business right now?
Right now, so yes, actually. So one thing that I want to do is I always tell people my number one goal, and this may sound extreme, my number one goal when I wholesale is to get a deal under contract and assign it the same day. Right. So what I need in order to do that is people who are buying in Georgia and Florida and are marketing, and they want to really take control of their own marketing, and we give them a strategy to do that, and we end up closing the deals for them and bringing the opportunities to the table. If it doesn't work for them, if they don't want to buy it, then we'll wholesale it and they'll get a fee. They'll get a cut of that wholesale assignment. So we're looking for buyers in Georgia and Florida that want to take control of their own marketing, for sure. Yeah.
That's a really good goal, to assign it the same day. Yeah. I think that's what stresses me out the most about this business is like you get a contract and then you're like, okay, I've had this contract for 2 weeks and it's not assigned. What's going to happen? Hate that.
It's not fun at all.
No, it's not.
Well,
Well, really cool. You have so much going on. You are building an awesome community. You have awesome goals to expand your business. It's really cool to see all of your growth. Is there anything else, any last words that you have? Anything else you're needing? Obviously, everyone go follow him. His Instagram is on the screen. So go follow him on Instagram, DM him. Here's the link to join his community. Go join that while you can. Don't miss out.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Just thank you for having me on. I'm grateful for being on here. I see this is the 7th episode, so stay consistent, right? Like every Thursday, I'm gonna be tapping in now. So make sure y'all tap in and subscribe to Jade's YouTube. And yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that hops on here every week. I really appreciate it. And we will see y'all next time.